I spent 1 month in Puebla, Mexico. Today I'm going to share with you what I loved, what I wish I had done differently, and how much I spent, because that was surprising even for me. Now, I should start by stating the obvious. I'm not in Puebla right now. I'm actually in Puerto Vallarta. I could have filmed this from our apartment, but I really needed a good excuse to get out this morning along the Malecon, and I think it just has better views, better vibes. It is gorgeous here first thing in the morning. Now, if you're new to my channel, let me give you a little bit of background. So for the last 15 years, I have been traveling the world. I run a website called Bacon is Magic, which is about traditional food around the world and international recipes. I have spent a tremendous time in Latin America, traveled from Mexico down to Argentina, and I love it. But after COVID, I spent the last 3 years in Southeast Asia with my Indonesian boyfriend, Alan. We have loved it, but I was really missing Latin America. And so I told him, we have to come back to Mexico. And so that's what we're doing. We're spending the fall here. Now, because it's his first time outside of Asia, and like most people, their first time to Mexico, he was a little bit hesitant. So we flew into Mexico City and went directly to Puebla. I had never been there, although I've traveled Mexico extensively, but I knew that it had great weather. It was considered one of the safer cities. It's a beautiful colonial city. And of course, it's a food city. So it had lots for us to do. Food was one of the biggest things I was worried about for him to adapt, but they have spice, they have rice. And so I knew he would probably like it, and thankfully he did. And before anyone comes at me to say 30 days is not long enough to know if you will live somewhere, I totally agree. But it does give you a really good sense of the things that you notice beyond just being a tourist, and if you're willing to spend more time there. So while we're in Mexico, we're going to try to stay in cities longer to see if they're a good fit for us, and Puebla was the first one. It's a small city, or at least that's what I said in the first video, and I was roasted by Mexicans. And that is because it is the 4th largest city in Mexico with over 3 million people. But we had only spent a few days in the historic center where we were staying, and it does feel like a good city. That was actually a compliment because it was very walkable, very safe, very beautiful. But actually, it's much bigger. There are many other neighborhoods, and a lot of them are modern, luxurious, have malls, and that's kind of a good thing. I'll talk about it a little bit more, but when you stay in the historic center, it's very beautiful, lots of things to do during the day, but at night it can be kind of quiet, and that was an issue for us. And so I think we would come back and stay in a different neighborhood if we can figure out the next thing, which was really a struggle for me. And that is public transportation. Now, I've been to Mexico before smartphones, so I have used public transportation all over different cities, never had a problem. I don't know why Puebla was such an issue for me. If you want to go into other small towns and villages, if you want to go to La Scala, Atlisco, Cholula, it's pretty easy. You can go to the Capu bus station and take a quick and very inexpensive bus. If you want, Uber also exists in Puebla, as does Didi, which is like the slightly cheaper Mexican Uber. But we did not find that that was economical or practical for us. We wanted to just check some things out, and so going to spend 150 pesos just to see what the mall looked like one way did not make sense for us. So the regular public transportation is the Metro bus system, which is a fast line of buses. If you're going directly to a spot, it's great, but everywhere we wanted to go to required having different connections. And it was kind of confusing because they don't have an app, you just have to look on Google Maps. And then they have the Ruta system, which is better. It's these small minivans which hurtle through the town, and we did take that out to a tianguis and really enjoyed it. But again, everywhere we want to go to required us switching rutas for some reason, or at least that's what Google was telling us. I think for locals, this is a very easy system. For tourists, to be honest, I think they probably rely mostly on Uber and Didi just because it's very confusing, and we just thought it was so complicated. We walked most of the places. I will say this though, the public bus system is very affordable. It costs, 7 or 8 pesos to kind of go everywhere. So once you do figure it out, it's fantastic. We just never figured it out in 30 days. We did get a lot of steps in though, so that was a good thing. Let's talk about something I love about Puebla, and that is it's very much a local city. So I think Mexico has a lot of really popular tourist attractions that are basically overrun by Western tourists. And this is not the case in Puebla. I loved the fact that there actually wasn't a lot of English spoken, even in the historic center. And it seemed to be that everything was directed towards Mexican tourists, or at least Spanish-speaking tourists. That was fantastic for us because we were there to take Spanish classes with the Spanish Institute of Puebla. The Malecon is getting very busy. It is Saturday morning. This was not the time to shoot. So I think I'm gonna take a walk along the riverside. All right, this is so much better, more shade, fewer crowds. Let's talk about safety because that's the reason why we came to Puebla. We skipped Mexico City. We actually flew in after 3 hours flying and immediately took a bus from the airport into Puebla. And that was the best thing we could have done because Puebla is considered a safe city, and that was certainly our experience. We didn't have any issues. We had heard that there was some petty crime, some pickpocketing, but to be honest, even in the Zocalo, no one tried to sell us things. It was very calm, quiet, and I really loved that. Now, along the shopping streets, some of them are really busy. There's a lot of people, and Alan was extra vigilant, especially when I was filming with my camera and speaking English. Sometimes he thought people were a little too interested, so we would just pop into a store. And my advice here, and I've always used this as a solo traveler, is at any time, if you feel uncomfortable, do not worry about offending someone. Just get out of the situation that you're in, walk into a store, go stand next to police. You might be wrong, you might offend people, but it's better to be safe than sorry. And this comes from someone who has been robbed 3 times in their travels. I'm still here, you don't need your things, but I have learned to trust my instinct and not to be polite. Now, as much as I love that Puebla is a local city, and during the day there's so much to do in the Zocalo, there's music and cultural events and dances, and there's just really so much if you don't know what to do, along with all of the other museums and shoppings and restaurants and all of those things. But at night, everything shuts down. In fact, after 8 o'clock, it's very difficult to find somewhere to eat and really to find like a cafe or something that you just want to have something non-alcoholic. You know, we really like going out at night and just having like a juice or a lemonade or an iced tea, and that was not something that really fit with the historic center of Puebla. It does exist in the other areas, so I think again, now that we've spent time in the historic center, we would probably want to move on to one of the other areas where there's a little bit more to do at night and it's a bit more modern. I'm so glad that we are walking along the river because I'm discovering some parts that I haven't seen yet. Now, let's talk about the biggest expense, which is usually accommodation. I like to look for places on Facebook groups or to book direct, but that wasn't really possible in Puebla, I think because it's more of a local city. They're not looking to attract a lot of foreign tourists, and so there are only options on Airbnb. I paid $967 for our apartment, which was advertised as a high-speed apartment. And when I got there, I realized I had asked them for a speed test. They did the speed test in their office in the building, not in my apartment. My apartment was new, and so when I got there, the Wi-Fi was so bad that actually I couldn't even look at the smart TV. Everything there was completely new, so that was great. It was nice to have like new kitchen, new bed that was very comfortable. But I also had a new neighbor who was German and who I could hear all of his conversations. And at 10 p.m. at night and 6 a.m. in the morning, well, at night he liked to listen to talk shows very loud, and in the morning at 6 a.m. he blasted Spotify, which woke Alan up every day. I was already up. Anyway, when we talked to the building about that, they didn't really have anything for us. They did fix the Wi-Fi though, as best as they could. We continued to have issues, but they did try their best. In terms of the neighbor, we just learned to live with hearing all of his stories and his music choices, which were interesting, depending on where he went at night and what time in the morning he came home. So would I recommend where I stayed? Well, it kind of depends. If you're looking to go for a month, I would say do not use apartment number 7. And to be honest, I do think the staff there do their best, and so hopefully they've figured out the internet situation. The neighbor part, I would just say find out who your neighbor is going to be before you move in. In the future, what I would do is actually what I did here is come a couple of days early and go see places in person and do speed test on my phone. So that was a good lesson for me. I'm not bitter about it, but I won't make that mistake again. Now, let's move on to a surprisingly low expense for us, which was transportation. Now, I told you I couldn't figure out the transportation system. So basically, we ended up spending $63 for the month. $10 of that was from the rutas, the 8 peso buses. And so we actually went a lot of places, and so we saved a lot of money by taking the rutas. And $53 of that was through Uber and Didi. And we did not go to a lot of places, but it did cost a lot of money. But you know, when we went to La Scala, when we went to Cholula, we wwere tired after filming at the end of the day, and so we just took Uber back from the Capu bus station. So I would say $63, not bad. And we were very comfortable most of the time. This place is fantastic. I can't wait to share it with you in future videos, but let me share with you the most annoying expense that I had, and that was the gym. So Alan and I had decided in 2025 we're going to make more of an effort to take steps, to walk longer, to go to the gym when we could. And so Puebla was a great opportunity for that, and we decided to join the gym. I found SmartFit, which is a franchise throughout Latin America. And I said to them, hey, we're here for the month, want to take the gym, yada, yada. It's a modern gym. They signed us up. It was $4.99 for the month. And they said, cancel 7 days before your time is up. No problem. Made myself a little note, scheduled it. And then I went in 7 days in advance and said, hey, I want to cancel. And they said, you're going to have to pay another month because you actually need 30 days. Now, that doesn't make sense at all, and I don't know if the person who signed me up didn't know or was lying, but I contacted SmartFit head office. They still have not responded back to me, and so I would just say this. In the future, we are going to look for places that actually have a gym in the apartment. I will spend more money because I spent an extra $125 for 2 people, and one of those months, neither of us were able to go to the gym because we left Puebla. I don't like that. SmartFit, you're dead to me. 2 things I did not have to pay for are laundry, as we had it in the building for free, and also Spanish classes with Spanish Institute of Puebla. Now, I made a video about it last week, but I really do think it is a fantastic place to learn Spanish, but also Puebla is so nice. You stay in the historic center, you're not far, and also they're not just about teaching you Spanish itself, but also the culture. I love my time there. I love my teacher, Laura. I miss you so much. And just the conversations that we had, I learned a lot about the nuances of Mexico that I would have not picked up on my own. Now, finally, miscellaneous. Under miscellaneous, we have things like entrance fees, tips, buying things on the street, things that I may have forgotten. I have spent $70 on that. Now, I do take pictures of every single receipt and I input it into an Excel sheet because I need to keep track of my expenses for my job, Bacon is Magic, my website, and also this YouTube channel. But occasionally there are times where, of course, I'm probably going to forget, but we did spend $70 on things that I cannot account for. And then the final biggest or second biggest expense is actually food. Now, food is one of those things that it wildly differs. So let me just give you our preferences for food because I think it naturally sets us at the low end of cost for spending money. We like to eat traditional food. We like to eat in traditional restaurants. I like to cook at home when I can. And we naturally do not spend a lot of money on food. And so we are eating comida corrida, the set lunch. We're eating at the markets, the fondas, the comedores. It's just because we want to try as much food as we can, especially in a delicious food city like Puebla. And so we averaged $25 US each day for both of us. That included both money that we spent at grocery stores and also what we spent eating at restaurants. So grocery stores, we tried out Walmart, Aurora, I don't know how to say that, Soriana. We went to like the local side shops, the produce places, the markets. We kind of went to a mixture of everything to see, what was the best for us. And the local shops did tend actually to be much better. But I would say there were things like cottage cheese or Greek yogurt that I really liked, and I did have to go to a formal grocery store for that. And then all the little local places that, you know, I have featured in the videos. We were surprised by how little we spent. Mexico is definitely more expensive than Latin America, but I didn't realize that Puebla was so much cheaper than Canada. If we had eaten out at, you know, international like Italian places or some of the more formal restaurants, there is definitely fine dining in Puebla, but I'm really the kind of person that just likes to first understand food at a street level, at the comedores, at the home cooking, and then if I really like something, I may have some fine dining. But there was just so much to eat. I didn't get to eat everything I wanted. And so yeah, it ended up being very, very affordable for us to eat. Now, that brings our total for 1 month in Puebla to $19.50 US. I was very surprised by that. I definitely thought I would be spending more towards $3,000, but I think it was really the food that actually helped offset the price of the condo. In the future, do I think Puebla is right for us? It definitely could be. So I would not stay in Centro Histórico. If you live in Puebla, please tell me where you live. I'm definitely looking for a local vibe, but Alan loves modern conveniences. We would definitely need to rent a motorbike because me not being able to figure out public transportation held us back from going kind of longer distances, or, you know, if we had a motorbike, we could just pop on the back of it to go somewhere like we do in Asia. So I think we would be interested in going again just because it does have fantastic infrastructure. It's safe, it's a food city. It's also very close to Mexico City, only a couple of hours, but it also has its own airport. So it has a lot of the things that tick off the box. But in next week's video, you're going to find us in another very popular city, Oaxaca. Now, I have been there before, but it was 15 years ago. We're not staying for a month, unfortunately. We don't have the time. But I am definitely curious to see how it has changed, and is it somewhere that I would want to live? Because 15 years ago, I thought for sure it would be the place that I would settle down. And so now we're going to see. I will see you in the next video. If you have any questions, comments, insults, keep them respectful, and leave me a comment below. Ciao.